Hi, hello, and if you're new to the channel, welcome, and if you've been here before, welcome back. Now, a couple of months ago, I was visiting the feeder reservoirs for the summit of the Oxford Canal, and I said I would come back and have a look at them at the end of winter to see how they were getting on, to see if, in fact, they had been refilled over the winter. As you may recall, we've had a very wet winter in the UK, one of the wettest ones in quite a while. Some places seem to have had 2 to 3 times the typical amount of rainfall that they would get. So let's have a look to see how the reservoirs are getting on. So yes, another reservoir watch video. So the reservoirs I'm going to be visiting are the Boddington Reservoir, the Wormleighton Reservoir and the Clattercote Reservoir. And my first stop is the Boddington Reservoir. Now, you may recall in the last video when I visited here a couple of months ago, there was a surprising amount of water in it. I was very pleasantly surprised just how much water there was in the reservoir. So let's see how it's getting on. And of course, typical. I visit here today. We're out of meteorological winter and it's a grey, wet, damp day with a sort of fine rain in the air. So that's good, but at the same time, doesn't make for great videoing. So how is the Boddington Reservoir getting on? Okay, so up the steps to the Boddington Reservoir, and what will we see when we get to the top? Well, it's pretty misty and murky out there. Wow, that is one seriously full reservoir. That's absolutely excellent. That's got to be up to, well, I don't think it can actually get much higher. Yep, grey misty morning, but we've got a full reservoir. Fantastic, look at that. So what I'm going to do now is go around the reservoir. I'll have a look at the spillway at the far end and the feeder into the canal, see how that's getting on. And I'll also go and have a look at the feeder into the reservoir to see how much water's in that. But I'd imagine it's quite a lot. That is in fact quite incredible when you consider just how low this was at the end of the summer. Wow, quite incredible. When I was here in the summer when the reservoir was at its lowest, must have been a good 10, 12, 15 feet below where the water level currently is. And all along here, there was a sort of bank, a sort of sand bank had appeared, and there was grass growing on it at one point, sort of muddy sandbank. And now look at it, quite incredible. And yes, I know reservoirs are designed to do this, fill up in the winter so that we've got water in the summer. But it's still remarkable to see this, to see just how much this has come up. Okay, so on this grey, murky, misty morning, here I am at the far end of the Boddington Reservoir, and it's absolutely great to see the spillway in operation. During the summer, that was dry as a bone. Water levels there were really incredibly low, and now we've got water flowing over it. Fantastic to see. I think we could say this reservoir is full. So here we are with the marker, and yep, that reservoir is full. It's on the 4. I'm not entirely sure what the units are measuring, but they're in 10 centimetre segments there, and it's on that 4 below the 121. So a lot of water in this reservoir. And it's great to see water going over that spillway. It was so low back in the summer. It's quite incredible that it's come up to this. Fantastic. One full reservoir. Let's hope that means the Oxford Canal can stay open this summer. So this is the water from the spillway, and as you can see, it's flowing through here. It's a shame really that all this water can't be stored and kept for the summer months. Okay, so let's have a look to see how the flow is into the Oxford Canal. I would assume that it's closed off because the Oxford Canal is pretty much full. And here is the outflow to the Oxford Canal from the Boddington Reservoir, and there's nothing flowing. It's closed off. This I was expecting because the canal must be pretty much full. And so there is the Boddington Reservoir on this grey March day. Absolutely full. Fantastic. Didn't think that would happen. Yes, I know reservoirs are designed to fill up in the winter months, but this one was so low at the end of summer, I never thought it would refill to this extent. Okay, so this is of slight interest. When I came around here last summer, I couldn't see this because of all the leaves on the trees, and I haven't been back since the summer. But this is the Byfield Reservoir. It's now a nature reserve. It's next to the Boddington Reservoir, and this was the original feeder reservoir for the Oxford Canal. It now sort of feeds into the Boddington, or in places it appears that the Boddington may in fact feed into this. So this was the original reservoir, didn't hold enough water, so they built the Boddington. Okay, so here I am approaching the last point of interest on the Boddington Reservoir, the feeder channel, and I am expecting this to be full, which it is. Absolutely amazing to see. Fantastic, look at that. Wow. When you consider how low that was back in the summer, it's quite incredible to see it so full now. Absolutely brilliant. Yep, incredible to see. Back in the summer, there was no water, or hardly any water, going through the arches there, and it looked almost like a green field out to my right, with the faintest of trickles of water flowing through it. That's a quick look around the Boddington Reservoir. Absolutely amazed that it's got so much water in it. Yes, I know, I keep saying this. Reservoirs do that. They fill up in the winter and empty in the summer. But this one was so low at the end of the summer that I never thought it would fill up to this level and be full. So quite amazing. So fingers crossed that the Oxford Canal stays open this summer. Should do with all this water, but then again, how much water was in here at the end of last winter? Right, my next stop is the Wormleighton Reservoir. So let's go and have a look at that. Last time I was there, it was filling up, but still very, very low. Hopefully it contains as much water, or it's filled up as much as this one has. It certainly won't contain as much water, but hopefully it is now full. So let's go and have a look at it. Second reservoir. Now this one's always a bit of a challenge to get to, not because of the mud. Back in the summer, this path was bone dry. This one's always a challenge to get to because there's a railway line that you've got to cross. And I must admit, I don't like crossing that railway line. Anyway, this is the second reservoir, the Wormleighton Reservoir. Now, in earlier videos, I kept calling this the Wormleighton Reservoir and got pointed out by several viewers that it's Wormleighton Reservoir, Wormleighton Reservoir. So, it's a bit like me in winding holes and winding holes. Once I get it stuck in my head, it's difficult to shift. But anyway, this is the Wormleighton Reservoir. First thing I need to do is cross this train line. Hi, one adult crossing the Wormleighton Reservoir crossing. About 20 seconds. Yes, I am. Yeah. Will do. Okay, thank you. Okay, so here we go across. As I say, really don't like doing this. Hi, that's me across the Wormleighton Reservoir crossing. Yes, thank you, bye. Okay, so that's me across the railway track, now down to the canal and the reservoir. Okay, so here I am at the Oxford Canal and it's looking pretty good, pretty full. So let's go and have a look at the Wormleighton Reservoir. And wow, that has really come up. That is amazing. That was so low in the summer. And even when I visited a a couple of months ago, it was still surprisingly low, and yet now I think that's full. We'll soon know when I go down the far end and look at the markers down there and the spillway. But that is looking pretty full to me. That's great to see. Fantastic. As I walk along the retaining bank here by the reservoir, there's still some sort of signs of the cracks that appeared during the summer, but they've mainly closed up, which I guess is a good thing actually. So here I am at the spillway at the Wormleighton Reservoir, and there's some water leaking underneath, but it doesn't appear to have been flowing over the top yet. Looks like it's still got a few inches to go for this reservoir to be full. If we look at the front of the spillway, you can see there's a good 2 to 3 inches to go before it's flowing over the top. And this is one great thing to see, the depth gauge. It was so low on that gauge at the end of the summer, and now it's well up. So while the Wormleighton Reservoir may not actually be completely full, it's certainly recovered during the winter. There is no water flowing from the reservoir into the canal. In fact, there is a gate in place to stop water flowing from the canal into the spillway drain of the reservoir. It's great to see the Wormleighton Reservoir with so much water in it. The end of the summer, that was just mud flats out there with hardly any water. And now it's 2 or 3 inches short of being full. And there's even a limited amount of water flowing into it from the feeder channel. I wonder where this reservoir is picking up most of its water from, because there clearly isn't enough in this channel to feed it. It's not exactly rushing through. Okay, so now that I'm down on the Oxford Canal, I'm just going to pop along to my favourite tunnel on the Oxford Canal, the Fenny Compton tunnel, and have a look at the spillway there that was put in to replace an iron trough that took water from the left-hand side of the canal here into the Wormleighton Reservoir. When that trough was taken out, the spillway was put in, and so the water now, instead of flowing into the Wormleighton Reservoir where it can be stored and used in the summer, now flows directly into the canal and is essentially lost from the system. Okay, so this is the start, well, the southern end of what was the Fenny Compton tunnel, and when it was a tunnel there was a stream flowing over the top which went down into the Wormleighton Reservoir. When they removed the tunnel, they removed the stream. So they originally replaced the stream with an iron trough to take the water across the top of the canal and to continue its way down to the reservoir. That trough was removed a good few years ago and replaced with a spillway up on the left-hand bank. So let's go and see how the spillway is getting on. Let's see if it's putting any water into the Oxford Canal. Okay, so there's the spillway, and I thought there might be a bit more water flowing down it than that. So that's not a lot of water. Okay, so that's the Wormleighton Reservoir and the spillway done. Time to head off to the third and final feeder reservoir to the summit of the Oxford Canal, the Clattercote Reservoir. Okay, so here I am at the last of the 3 reservoirs, the Clattercote Reservoir. Let's see how much water's in this one. And wow, that one is really up as well. Fantastic. It's great to see. Last time I was here, there was still a lot of sort of beaches on this reservoir, but now it's right up to the boardwalks on the way around. Incredible, absolutely amazing. Yep, a lot of water in this reservoir. And the big question is it full? Is it going over the spillway? Levels are certainly up on the depth gauge, and that would suggest that it is full. And water is flowing over the spillway, so the Clattercote Reservoir is definitely full. Now what gets me, when I was here at the end of the summer, these fishing platforms were a good 6 to 8 feet above the ground, and the water was way out there. There was sort of a good, I don't know, 10 yards of beach exposed. And now look at them. Water is almost lapping over the top. Wow, I can't get over this. When I was here at the end of summer, this was like a green field here with a few little streams flowing across it. Now there's got to be a good 6 to 8 feet of water, possibly even more, across that area. Absolutely amazing. Okay, so that's a look around the 3 feeder reservoirs that feed into the summit of the Oxford Canal: the Boddington, the Wormleighton and the Clattercote Reservoirs. And it was great to see that the Boddington Reservoir is clearly full. Water is flowing over the Spillway. The Wormleighton Reservoir has still got a little way to go, 2 or 3 inches I would guess, and then that will be full. And the Clattercote Reservoir is also full. So hopefully this means that we are going to have a summer with no closures on the Oxford Canal. I guess time and weather will reveal whether or not that is the case. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this, found it interesting or entertaining, please don't forget to give it a like, a big thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel. It all helps. And that is possibly my last reservoir watch video. Now, on the screen you will see a QR code that if you scan it or click on the link in the description, that will take you through to a newsletter about my narrowboat, the Grey Wagtail. Completely free newsletter. I just put out a few things on it and alert you as to when a new video comes out. Anyway, again, thanks for watching for this long. Bye for now.